Um,
Okay.
Janine, so great to have the opportunity to talk to you. My goodness, I feel like we're old friends because I honestly loved Northern Exposure. I mean, I watched it when it was live. Of course, it was like, here we go. Here we go.
Oh, I don't even hear it.
You don't hear it at all?
No.
Oh, okay. So then I'll just ignore it and we'll keep going and hopefully, it'll be fine. Okay. So as to continue, I used to watch it every week. It was like appointment TV, like, good in the good old days. And what I love about streaming services and what we're being offered now is that not only are people who've never seen the show get the opportunity to see it, get to, relive it as well. What's like been like for you to be able to like revisit the show after so many years?
Well, I've done of I have a huge scope of my career. I've worked with a lot of wonderful people like Anthony Hopkins and Sylvester Stallone and Robert Altman and Richard Gere, but still I would say Northern Exposure is my absolute favorite character. It was just beautiful. It was exquisitely written. It was challenging. It was fun. It was poignant. It was intelligent. There was always something different in every script. It was like, oh, what's this going to be? What 1 week I'm Amelia Earhart, the next I'm with a Russian accent, and the next I'm in an igloo. I mean, it was always something really fun.
Yeah,
Not to mention she was one of the first strong characters on television.
absolutely. Yeah, that must have been so exciting for you as a young actress, basically starting out. I mean, this was your first big thing. And, it must have been so amazing to have read that script and go, wow, Maggie, what a great character.
Well, it was especially amazing for a couple of reasons. I had moved to New York City from Texas at the age of 15 to model with Wilhelmina. And
Yeah.
then then I worked on Dallas, and then Franco Zeffirelli discovered me. And so then I moved to LA. So I was in LA by the age of 17, and I was offered so many TNA roles
Right.
constantly. We're talking the 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And I was actually engaged to Alec Baldwin then. And the only reason I say that is because there he was out getting all these fabulous roles. And I was like, would you like to be kidnapped again? And and asked to do a 360 in my yellow and white striped bikini. So
Right, right.
So I moved to New York at the age of 23 and said, if I can't garner work that's really that I feel is respectable, I don't even know if I want to do it anymore. So I found a method acting coach, cut my hair, rolled around the floor, emoting. And right before, and I was being very selective. I was in Monkey Shine, Still Magnolias, little parts here and there. I did theater in New York. But right before Northern Exposure, I had $8 left to my name.
Wow.
Yes.
I never knew that. My God.
I was at
Wow.
rock bottom. I had broken up with the man that I loved, and I had $8 left, and I was walking around New York City like a Dostoevsky novel, and became really willing. I said, okay, God, I turn everything over to you, whatever. I mean, I was trying to do a good thing. I thought, here, stand up for the integrity of women's roles. And then Woody Allen says 80% of success is showing up, or I'm paraphrasing a little bit that. I was so depressed I didn't know if I could get out of the bed. This is a bridge version of the story. But I did. I showed up for the audition, and there's so much to the story. But the bottom line is I booked the role. So at the very last minute, when I was my mother said, come home. I'm like, no, I can't go home. I booked Maggie O'Connell. She was everything I had been waiting for. So my saying is, which I have in my Broadway show now, don't give up before the miracle. Just don't give up before the miracle.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk about that Broadway show too, because I'm a big Broadway gal, so I can't wait to talk to you about that. I wanted to ask you also, obviously aside from the great scripts and just it being such a great quirky show, it being set in Alaska, nobody ever saw shows in Alaska, so I always thought that was so cool. But the relationship that you had with Rob Morrow on screen, like it just worked so well. Was it instant between the two of you, or did that take time to develop?
It's interesting. When I auditioned for the role, it was at CBS. You have to go meet the network. At least you did in the olden days. And there were a couple of girls, and I walked in the room, and Rob and I were in the elevator later, and he said, "You're going to get the role." We could just feel it. Yeah. And so there was always a chemistry. And I remember early on, Joshua Brand and John Falsey, they were always in LA. We were in Seattle filming, but they would call and say things like, you don't need to force the attraction. The attraction is there. Just
Right.
let that, and then now build everything else on top of it. And so, yes, innately, we had an attraction. We kind of had this, we were very, we loved and cared about our work. We had at times of antagonism with one another, but we challenged one another. We fed off one another. So it was, I really always appreciated Rob's passion as Fleischman, and the scenes were just so much fun. I mean, when I'm posting online now, I'll say "in your dreams, Fleischman," because that's what everybody remembers. And it was fun. It was fun to be, because it was, everybody waited for it once a week.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it was the water cooler talk back then. And so everybody wanted to know what was going to happen between Fleischman and O'Connell. But my daughter watched it around 19 years of age, and just independently of me, loved it. Loved the whole thing. So I was very concerned and worried about why it wasn't being streamed, because no one really has a DVD player anymore. I mean, certain people do.
Exactly.
But the rising generations, and I was very concerned about I think the show's a classic, and the legacy of the show, and nothing was happening with it. And people would stop me everywhere. Where's the show? Where's the show? Where's the show? And Rob and I actually had lunch a couple years ago, and they were leaning over the rafters. Fleischman O'Connell, get it streamed. I want to see it. So I cold called Universal Studios in 2019. Like, I looked up online, an executive called and said, "What's going on with Northern Exposure?" And they came back and said, "Oh, we can't do it. It's going to cost too much money." Da, da, da. I said, well, so-and-so's working on it. May I have his name? And I called him. And for 3 years, I've been working with the executives at Universal Studios to get this streamed and to figure out a way to work the music and make it all work. So I'm like the champion of this. So it's really fun to see it starting. Yeah, I just had a conversation with the executives yesterday, and we're working on the USA distribution now. So it's
amazing. Sweet. What a great story. And I love that you're so persistent. I think that's so fantastic. I wanted to know, look, there were so many great episodes, so many great scenes and things that happened on that show. Was there a standout for you, something that you really loved shooting, or just like when you watch it back, you go, "Oh, I just love that scene"?
There's so many. There's one I was thinking about this morning that I don't even remember what it was called. I think it was around the 4th season, where I just am really on a roll, and I'm taking on this man who's making noise early in the morning, and I'm eating. I take this piece of paper and I eat it. And I'm just like, I'm going to eat it. And it was just, the writers would say to me, when you read, if you were just read on the paper what they write, you would think that's a horrible thing to say. But when you feed it through the right cast, it really comes alive and has different intricacies. But I think my favorite shows, to answer your question, gosh, I mean, there were so many. Let's see. Spring Break, where Rob Moore and I have our first fling in the kitchen when pots and pans are flying everywhere and everybody runs down the street naked. I would say when my mother comes to visit, she burns my entire house down.
Nice. Thanks, Mom. Yeah.
And John Corbett and I are Maggie and Chris are in the morning, we're like, he wants to fling a cow, and everyone's like, you can't catapult a cow. So he decides to fling my burnt piano. I mean, it was stuff like that. And then all of Maggie's boyfriends died by weird deaths. And when she didn't pass Rick, her boyfriend at the time, in his flying test, because she's a pilot. So she was giving him his exam. She failed him. So he went to a mountaintop to think about it, was hit by a satellite and died.
Yeah.
It was just, portraying Amelia Earhart. Rick came back as a dog. I had in another episode. So the whole show is like, Rick, this is my boyfriend and this dog. And then finally, I'll just say, when there's a bear that had a crush on Maggie, so he became a human to dance with her in a cave. To opera music, it's those type of really mystical type of things.
I'm sure. Oh God, so much to look back and so much fun. Do you, when you look at it now, do you think that Maggie was pretty much a groundbreaking character at the time?
I really do. I really do. I mean, the only other, now film had Katharine Hepburn and things of that nature earlier in the 30s, not television.
Right.
And you think, well, who else? Maybe it was Mary Tyler Moore, but she was married and had her husband in the Mary Tyler Moore Show. But Maggie was independent. I mean, she flew her own plane and killed her own deer and fixed her own plumbing. And so I do think she was groundbreaking. Now we see more and more characters like that, but she was one of the first.
Yeah. Don't you wish you could like fix your own plumbing and do that kind of stuff yourself?
Yes, I do. Or fix a tire, or fly my own plane. Yes, she was so brave. And I think about where we're the same and where we're different. I'm very outdoorsy. I'm very determined. I'm very independent, but I can't fix a tire. I can't
Yeah.
fly a plane, and I don't know. I've never shot a deer, but I live on a ranch. So
You know what? You're so ambitious. I could see you, flying your own plane and stuff.
oh, my dad was a pilot.
Oh,
He was a graduate
oh,
of the United States Military Academy at West Point, so he was a West Pointer. But in class of '57 is Air Force Army, so he flew in the Air Force, and then he flew for an airline for 25 years. So that ran in the family.
Yeah, so it was an homage to him in a way.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah. So nice, so nice. So, just to touch on some of the other things that you've done over the years, like, I mean, such great films, such memorable roles, my goodness. Cliffhanger, they're doing a reboot?
That's what I heard.
Okay, so you haven't been contacted or?
Well, waiting for the call, call. And
come on, Sly, pick up the phone.
Yeah, my challenge for that, as this kind of pioneering woman that I am, is are we going to let a man age 3 decades and we could bring him back, but we're not going to let a woman age 3 decades and bring her back? So
yeah, this is a problem still. Like, unfortunately, which in 2023 that we are still. Although I have to say, Janine, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but lately, like, we have been seeing some really good roles for older women. Women our age, and I think it's getting there. I don't know.
It's getting there. It's getting there. But the kicker is, can we age without feeling like we have to do plastic surgery? Because I haven't done that yet, and I'm watching all my contemporaries, looking really great, and I'm like, oh God, my face. But it's like, you look at a man with wrinkles in his face, and you never think about it. You go, oh, how interesting he is. Look at him.
I know.
But a woman would still go, oh, maybe she needs a little Botox. But I don't think that way. But women still feel like they have to do that.
Right.
So I think it'd be cool if women didn't feel like they had to do that.
Yeah.
But whatever. Might as well go for it, I guess.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, whatever makes you happy. And if you have an amazing doctor like Jane Fonda, go for it. I don't know. Whatever. Right?
She looks good. I may still come to that. I just haven't yet. I don't know.
Oh, you don't need it.
I don't want to put Botox in my body.
Oh,
I don't even take aspirin.
Oh, you look phenomenal. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable.
Oh, no, trust me. It's just the blowout light and the blur effect on Zoom.
Oh, please. You look amazing. I take it. Just take it. Okay. Yeah, I want to talk to you about this Broadway show that you wrote. You wrote the lyrics. It's a musical. Tell us a little bit about Belva Lockwood and why you were so interested in telling her story.
Well, I wrote a published book by Thomas Nelson Publishers in 2007, and it was about single mothers. But my opening chapter was about single mothers throughout history, starting with Constantine's mother, and then walking through the Middle Ages, and then the Revolution, and slave women, all pioneering women, all the way through. And then my publisher said, "Go write that book. That's a really interesting book." So each chapter was on one of those women, and the last chapter was on Belva Lockwood. And in the back of my mind, she's just always in my head. I was thinking, I don't know, musical. This needs to be a musical. So I sat down in 2019 and wrote the book, the script, and the lyrics. Found a composer, a female composer, just to keep it in the Dr. Raina Murnak, and we composed it over Zoom. So, but Belva Lockwood, we've had our first 2 performances in New York.
Amazing.
It's the stair step, the stair step you have to get to Broadway. You don't just get to Broadway,
Yes.
It takes a lot of rehearsal, a lot of tweaking, but I love, as a playwright, I love to write. I love it. Write poetry. I have a book of poetry that's getting ready to be released. So poetry and lyrics are my thing. So it's very cathartic for me. It's like a puzzle piece. But Belva, what I love about Belva is she didn't just fight for women's rights. She fought for humanity. So she walks through fighting through the Civil War, and she lived from 1830 to 1917. So she after fighting to be admitted to the bar of the United States Supreme Court for 5 years when they wouldn't allow a woman to be on the bar. She was the first woman. She ended up taking the landmark case, making the most money for the Trail of Tears, the Cherokee Nation asking for reparations for the Trail of Tears. Wow. And she went. But mainly, she was the first woman to run for president in 1884 on the ballot with the Equal Rights Party, and nobody knows about it. And she won the independent. She won some of the electoral votes, even in certain. So it's amazing. There was like, we don't think we've had a woman until Hillary Clinton, but we have.
Well, not just a mini, I mean, this should be a mini series too. You should think about
Yeah,
writing this for TV. This is really
true.
fascinating.
True, true,
Yeah,
true. Yes,
yeah.
she is fascinating. And she was a single mom. She made the decision. I'm a single mother. So she made the decision she was born in 1830, child was 1852. 1852, she made the decision to not be remarried, to remain single so she'd have control of her child, because otherwise the rights went to the husband. And she went to college and law school and thought all these things with her child by her side. So there's a love story with her mother-daughter in there.
Wow. What a great story. That's amazing. Well, hopefully I need to get to New York to see you on stage. That would be
Yeah,
phenomenal.
we'll make sure that happens when it gets
I would
brought.
love to. I would love to. Now summer's coming and I can just hop on a plane. Take me no time to get there. So it's nothing.
There
Yeah.
you go.
And lastly, of course, you talk about being a single mom and then you talk about Belva, going to bar. You've got a daughter at Harvard Law School?
I do. Yes.
Wow. That's so, I mean, you got to be so proud, Janine. That's amazing.
I'm not a label type of person, but it's a wonderful school, and it's kind of, there's a duality to this. There's sort of a relief because I did detour with my career. I still worked on Friday Night Lights for a season. I still worked, but I really put it on hold and raised her in Texas, and she and I were side by side, always very, very, very close. It was just the two of us, and all those days, all those, private schools I paid for myself, or land I sold to pay for those schools, and driving her to school every day of her life and sitting in the car so I could pick her up. Those were the joy, those were joyous times. Sure. But it wouldn't have mattered. I told her, I said, look, I don't care if you want to be Emily Dickinson and live in a white nightgown on the ranch for the rest of your life. I don't care, if you want to, whatever you choose for your career, it doesn't matter to me. I just want you happy, healthy, safe,
Of course.
But it is cool that there, and I'm very proud of her. She's the one who did all the work.
Oh, I'm sure. Listen, I don't doubt that. She has a great role model.
I just championed her.
Oh, no, you're a good role model. There's no question about it. Well, listen, I really do appreciate your time today. I'm praying to God that bell, that I'm not going to hear it too bad when I put this up.
Did you hear it during the interview?
Oh yeah, it kept going off. So anyway, I'm glad you didn't hear it, but I just praying. Anyway, it is what it is. It's life, right? It's okay. It's all good.
Well, if it impedes the interview, we can do it again.
So. I really do appreciate you offering me that, and I will let Michelle know for sure once we finish here. So thank you again for your time. It was just absolutely a thrill for me to be able to catch up with you, and fans are going to be watching Northern Exposure and new fans, and how exciting. It's very, very cool. So thank you again for your time. Really appreciate
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Michelle says wonderful things about you, so I was excited to meet you.
Yeah, me too. I'll definitely let Michelle know. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.